Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is my September making plans video. I'm going to be chatting about all of the things that I'm planning to work on during the coming weeks. If you're new to the channel you might not be aware I'm someone who likes to have lots of works in progress on the go. So in order for me to not spend half of my time trying to decide what I'm going to work on, in the last couple of years I've started to employ a fun little sort of game of chance to help me focus in on my projects for any given month. So I have a little dice roll game that I play. I've got a set of cards with various prompts on them and I will roll the dice 4 times to pick some prompts and hopefully they will lead me to some projects to concentrate on in September. A few months ago we also introduced a sort of community aspect to my making plans, whereby I have a little wheel, a little randomizer, and I have the names on the wheel of lots of folks in our community who have expressed an interest in picking a project for me to work on for the month. Today I'm going to spin the wheel and pick a name, then I will reach out to that person and see which project they would like me to work on. They have carte blanche, they can pick something from my works in progress or they could choose a entirely new project for me to work on. Whatever they like I will endeavour to undertake. Let's get into it. Here is my wheel with everyone's name on. And the wheel has picked the lovely Sherry of Twisted Dye Kitchen. So I don't think Sherry has posted a YouTube video for a little while, but I am smiling quite a lot because I know that Sherry has commented on a couple of these videos in the past to say that her name has been sort of like one either side of the little pointer. It's quite fun that this time Sherry's name has popped up, so I'm going to reach out to her and see what she would like me to work on and I will come back and let you know soon. A few days have passed for me and Sherry has come back to me and let me know what pattern she would like me to cast on. Actually she sent me a choice of a few different patterns and she picked the same designer, Susan B. Anderson, and I'm sure many of you will be aware of Susan B. Anderson's patterns. She designs a whole plethora of different things from accessories like hats, shawls, garments I think, but I think she's most well known for her toy patterns. Sherry gave me a choice of 3 different Susan B. Anderson toy patterns to choose from. Susan B. Anderson's sheep patterns, a hen pattern, and also the one that I actually went with is the mermaids pattern. And Sherry says she gave me the option of this because she knows how much I love living by the sea and how much I have enjoyed these last couple of years going for dips and swims in the sea. So she thought that maybe I would enjoy knitting a mermaid, and so of course I had to choose that. So I'll show you the picture from Susan B. Anderson's pattern page. Hopefully you can see that okay without too much glare from my phone screen. So yes, I shall be casting on a fun little mermaid which I'm really excited about, so thank you so much to Sherry for picking my pattern this month. What I hadn't mentioned to Sherry, because I don't want to influence anyone in any way, is that I had already decided that September would be a month of projects for me where I concentrate on working on projects that I have on the needles or new projects that I would be knitting with my hand spun yarn. Because I'd recently done my July making wrap up, which obviously involved a lot of hand spun yarn from the Tour de Fleece making adventures, I thought, given that my hand spun stash has kind of exploded in the last few weeks, it would be good to start working on my hand spun projects. So I had already got in the back of my head I would be working on hand spun this month. Really happy to have this mermaid pattern because I can definitely incorporate my hand spun yarns into making a mermaid. I will go rummaging through my handspun stash and see what yarns I have to make that mermaid. The pattern is originally knit in fingering weight yarn but because it is a toy pattern, of course it's very versatile. You just need to pick some needles that match your weight of yarn, and you can make your toy any size. So obviously if I pick a heavier weight yarn, my toy might end up working up a little bit larger, but that's absolutely fine. It's not something that needs to fit anyone or anything. So yeah, I will be making my mermaid from as much handspun yarn as I can. I'm not sure I have anything that might work for the sort of skin colour in my handspun stash, but I will have to have a rummage and see what I've got, see what might work. So I might do a mix of my handspun and maybe something commercial, but yeah, we'll see. I am excited to be able to incorporate my handspun theme in to the project that Sherry has picked for me. Going forward now, I will, as I always do, after someone has been picked, I will remove Sherry's name from the wheel for the next month and the coming months, and so everyone gets a fair opportunity to pick my project should they choose to do so. As I always try to mention, if you're on the wheel already and for any reason you'd like to come off the wheel, just contact me, let me know, and I can remove your name. And if you're not already on the wheel and you'd like to be added, I'm more than happy to add people if you feel like it might be something that you'd like to join in and you'd like to pick a project for me, either something from my works in progress or something new for me to cast on. Right, okay, let us get on with the dice rolling now so I can pick my next projects, the 4 other projects that I'll be working on during the month of September. Meant to be broken. So the dice have spoken, and as always I want to say a big thank you to my friend Simone for providing these beautiful cards for me. Simone has her own channel here on YouTube. She used to post about her knitting projects every once in a while, but mainly she posts about journaling, artwork. She's very much into inks at the moment, fountain pens and inks. So if that's something that you think you might be interested in and you don't already subscribe to Simone, there will be a link to her channel below. Simone sent me these cards and then I just added these sticky notes on the back with various prompts. So we've got we've got one prompt that's going to lead to something quite specific, and the others there should be a fair amount of choice around. So let's start with the one that's going to lead us to something quite specific. So that was prompt number 5, which has random number generator on the back. So usually I go to Ravelry and just count up the amount of works in progress that I've got listed there, and then get a random number generator to pick. I'm going to do that again today, but I just want to count up how many handspun projects I've already got on the needles. I don't want to put everything into the pot because I do, as I say, want to specifically work on some handspun projects this month. So I've got my Love Note, so that's 1. I've got my handspun Astra Vest, that's 2. I've got my Luna Mitts 3, my Heptagon Time Shawl, which is 4, Sun Gazer 5, Gnome 6, and last month I cast on a new sweater project, a Vina Hop. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. That is incorporating some of my handspun, and I'll talk more about that if I'm making wrap up. So that is 7 handspun projects altogether. So let me pull up a random number generator. Minimum 1, maximum 7, and we'll go 1 is my oldest project, the Love Note, and 7 will be the newest project. So hopefully you'll be able to see this. Just about. 1. I wasn't sure if I tapped it then. Shall I do that again? 1. No, let's go with 1. It was on 7 and it's gone down to 1. So number 1 is going to be my Love Note, which is really exciting because in July, or actually in August, I finished applying for my Spin to Knit Love Notes. So I'm going to be casting on my Love Note. Finally, this project has been 18 months in the making so far just to make the yarn. So yeah, that's really fun. Happy with that. Happy with that. I would grab the yarn to show you, but I think it's still downstairs. So we'll save that for, you'll see it soon because it will be part of my August making wrap up. Right, Love Note is project number 1. The next project that I shall mention is card number 6, which is the mood prompt. This one has come up multiple times this year, which I couldn't be happier about because it gives me carte blanche just to work on whatever I fancy. And you can see this has come up so many times because I've handled this card so many times that the little sticky note came unstuck and I've had to stick it back on with washi tape. But yeah, that just gives me the ability to pick anything that I fancy working on. So I think I will maybe wait for a couple of weeks into the month until I need a change from the mermaid, from the Love Note and whatever else I pick, and then just pick up anything or something that takes my fancy. So number 11 is our next prompt, and that is sock. And that is going to actually involve another new cast on. So I'll be casting on a mermaid and I'm going to be casting on a new sock because I do have a sock on the needles at the moment, but I don't have any handspun socks. Quite a few choices for this. So let me show you some yarn, and what I'm thinking is I might put up a poll over on my Patreon page for my Patreon community to choose which of these quantities of yarn to pick from, and I've got a few ideas for each of the potential sort of pairs of socks. So yeah, I'll quickly run through them here, and then yeah, I think I'll get my patrons to choose which one of these I should cast on. First up, back at the beginning of the year, I started to participate in the lovely Carrie from My Wool Mitten had a spin to knit socks make along, and I did the spinning element but I never quite got round to casting on the socks. So I blended up some naturally dyed Blueface Leicester, which was some fibre from Nellie and Eve, a lovely natural dyer here in Wales, and I blended that up with some alpaca. That was a lovely gift from Helen over in Tasmania. Hi Helen, if you're watching. And I spun up these 3 yarns. These 3 colours were all in the same batch of a Fibre Club from Nellie and Eve, so I just thought they looked really nice together, so I just spun those up. But I never did quite get round to casting on the socks. This has turned out to be a slightly thicker weight yarn. I don't think I've written down, if I've written down the measurements anywhere, it's not with the yarn, but I think it's heavy sport light DK, I think my yarns ended up being. I think I'm going to loosely take some inspiration from this book, Emily Foden's Knits About Winter, because she has a couple of sock patterns or sock recipes in here where she's made some socks and sort of colour blocked her yarns. So if I can find the pictures, let me quickly flick through, hopefully I can find them. So here we go. Hopefully the camera is shining in on those. And there are 2 patterns in this book. I think one is for a thicker weight yarn, maybe even a worsted weight yarn, and those ones that I've just shown you at the back there were for fingering weight yarn. But as you can probably see from the pictures, there's some marling and some colour blocking going on. So I think, although I might not be using the sock recipe from here, I'll have to check my thicknesses of yarn versus what I've spun up. I think I'm going to take the colour sort of inspiration loosely. I'm not going to follow any actual directions. I think I'm just going to colour block and stripe these colours. So that would be the first potential sock. And then I've got 3 different options from my Tour de Fleece spinning. The first one is this lovely orange and blue skein of yarn that I spun up from some fibre dyed by Penberth Yarns, and this is a merino nylon, so perfect for socks. I did a 3-ply fractal with this yarn and it's come out to be sort of sport DK weight, I think. So again, it'll be a slightly thicker pair of socks, but that's a-okay. And I think I will probably just knit a pair of plain socks if that one gets chosen, to show off the yarns for that. And then I've got these 2, which I spun up from some fibre from Spin Jones. I had one of their sock fibre scrap packs and I split down the fibre into 2 separate sort of colour family quantities, and I've got this one with blues, greens and a little bit of pink, and that one I think it was a 2-ply, yeah, so that's a 2-ply. And then this one with the greens, pinks and greys is a 3-ply, slightly thicker again. But my thought is, if I cast on with this one, the green one, I will probably knit myself a pair of short summer socks to go in my trainers in the sort of warmer months. And then I think with the blue, for some reason, the other day I think I was scrolling Instagram and I saw someone, was it? I think it might have been the lovely Diana Twiss. If you don't follow Diana and you are interested in spindling in particular, you should give her a follow over on Instagram, because she's always spinning up the most beautiful yarns on her spindles. She's based over in Canada, and yeah, I think she's absolutely amazing. And I think it was Diana's post. I think she's knitting a pair of pressed flower socks. I hope I'm crediting the right maker with the right post. And for some reason, it brought to mind this yarn. So the pressed flowers, if you're not aware of it, it's been a very popular design over the last couple of years, and it's been made into a sweater, a cardigan, a sock, a hat. I think there's all sorts of pressed flowers designs. But I feel like if I paired this with some nice dark brown, that it wants to be some pressed flowers. Now, my only caveat with that one is I think the pressed flower socks, I haven't bought the pattern yet, I haven't looked at it in detail, but I think the pattern is only written for 1 stitch count. So I think it's one of those, hey, if you want to change your sizes, just change your needle size, which isn't always, to my mind, the best in terms of being able to adapt a pattern for multiple sizes. Hopefully I can make it work with my yarns. So yeah, for some reason that skein was just shouting pressed flowers, or if I can't get the pressed flowers sock to work, then maybe some other colourwork sock. So those are the 4 potential sock options that I've got to work with handspun. And yeah, I'm going to pop up a poll on Patreon. So if you are watching this on Patreon, my patrons always get slightly early access to the videos. Then in a day or two's time, look out for a poll, and I'm going to be asking you to help me pick my sock cast on. Just as a added aside, and for anyone who might be curious about Patreon and the content that I post over there, anytime I ask patrons to vote on a project for me, whether it be spinning or knitting, I then, as a thank you for participating in the vote, I then make a vlog about the project that I make and post that as a Patreon exclusive. So yeah, there will be some sort of vlog connected to the sock project for the Yarn and Yarns Patreon community. So that just leaves us with 1, and that was number 2. I love this card, look at that, orange with stars. And this prompt is gifted, and that is to encourage me to work on a project that has some kind of gifted element to it. So I have been very lucky in the past, and still to this day, for lovely folks, friends and members of our community here, to gift me yarns, patterns, fibres. And so I thought it'd be fun to have a prompt that encourages me to work with an element of giftedness, is that a word? Probably not, to the pattern. So let me just quickly have a check again on my Ravelry, see which of my handspun projects might fall into that. Okay, so Love Note, I bought the pattern and I bought the yarn, I think, for that. Handspun Astravest, okay, that's an option. I'm going to gather some projects and we'll have a chat and then I'll make a decision. So Astravest, Luna Mitts, no. Heptagon Time Shawl, yes. I'm just going to try and reach behind me to gather my potential projects. Sun Gazer, yes, that's definitely got gifted elements to it. Handspun Gnome. Now that's a tricky one because, okay, I've got my little gnome hat here that I knit. This is as far as the project's got, and the fibre that I spun my handspun was gifted, but I'm not sure yet what I'm going to make the body with. Maybe I'll discount that one because I think I'm getting myself all twisted up with that one. And then my new cast on, the Vina Hop, the pattern was gifted to me, so yes. Okay, so let's think about these projects. So there's a lot here. My handspun Astravest has got 2 gifted elements to it, and it's the 2 yarns that I'm using in this project. So I haven't worked on this for ages, but my brown yarn I spun from a gifted fleece, and this was my first ever fleece that I received from my dear friend Charlie, and I processed the fleece and spun up the yarn in my first fleece to yarn adventure, and I've used it for the sort of main or the background colour for this vest. And then the contrast colour, the autumnal colours that you can see, I spun this from some fibre that was gifted by Kathy, Mountain Pearl, one of our lovely community members here. And Kathy sent me a lovely package a couple of years ago with several quantities of fibre, and I think I'm pretty sure I've spun them all now. And there was also some yarn in there, and I've got one quantity of yarn left in my stash waiting to be knit up. The yarns in this have been gifted, and I haven't worked on this for ages, and actually I'm really not too far off finishing. You knit the body in the round. I've split for the front and the back, as you can see. I've knit up a lot of the front. I think I paused on this one because I need to do the sort of shoulder bits, and I need to do a little bit of colour management because I don't want, you can see the contrast yarn is colour changing, and I don't want, you know, one shoulder to be orange and the other shoulder to be green. So I sort of took pause on that, wondering how I was going to approach that. I don't mind if the back and the front are different. I just kind of want the shoulders to be relatively matching. I don't think I'm going to get them exact, but I wanted to put a bit of time into thinking about that. So yeah, I haven't worked on that one for a while, so that might be a nice one to work on. Then I have got my heptagon time shawl, and actually the pattern for this was gifted to me by Mairead, and I have chosen some yarn that I spun up from some lovely art bats, and the art bats were a gift as well from my friend Jeanette. So this has got 2 gifted elements, and this makes my heart happy every time I pull it out of the bag, because the crazy colours, the slightly thick and thin texture, I love that shawl. I know it's probably not to everyone's taste, but it doesn't matter, does it, as long as it's to my taste. Then I do have my Sun Gazer, which is a pattern by James N. Watts, and the pattern was gifted to me by my lovely friend Ruth. And I recently, again in Tour de Fleece, finished spinning up the second quantity of yarn that I'm thinking about using for this project. And this was from some bats that were gifted to me by a friend of mine, Lisa. This is such a funny little project to share with you at the moment. It's a bit of a modular knit. You knit sort of each little wedge or section of it. So this is the beginnings of my top, if you can fathom it. And I was just waiting to spin up that second yarn. I'm on the fence a little bit about whether I've picked the right colours for this. So actually it might be quite good to work on this one so that I can actually figure out whether I'm on the right track with it, or whether I need to think about picking some different fibre to spin up. In this project bag, this is a project you haven't seen yet, but this was my birthday cast on. So a few days before my birthday, the lovely Dagmar sent me a pattern gift, which was just so unexpected and so lovely. And Dagmar's sent a few patterns to me over the years, and I haven't yet got round to casting on the patterns. I've got ideas for some of the other patterns that she's gifted me, but because this came through a couple of days before my birthday, and because I was tidying up the mess that I'd created after recording my July wrap-up video, I had this project bag in front of me which had the leftovers from my Litmus cowl, so all of the handspun leftovers, and I was just randomly sort of tidying up the bag and wondering what I was going to do with these, and out of the bag fell one of the little samples that I'd done with some dark green as a contrast colour. It just occurred to me in that moment that I had some beautiful Cartrev yarn in my stash, 2 skeins of 4-ply Cartrev yarn in a very similar green to what I'd spun. So I had the pattern in my head that Dagmar had gifted me, and then these yarns kind of presented themselves, and so I've ended up casting on with the pattern that Dagmar sent, and it's called Vina Hop, I think. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm not sure if I've got the pattern designer's name. Oh, I do. It's Nicola Susan. So Nicola Strick Designs. I will put links down below and details on the screen if I remember. It's a very clever pattern. It's a circular yoke pattern, but it can be knit at any gauge with any yarn. You just have to take your chest measurement and then do some really simple maths to work out your sizing. So I decided to make myself a striped version of the Vina Hop. The original pattern is in one colour, but some of the project pages had striped versions, which I've really enjoyed. So I have started making myself. It's very difficult to share this because I'm on the part where I'm increasing. I've got loads of stitches on my needles, but yeah, I am using the lovely Cartrev yarn and I'm striping it with the leftovers from my Litmus cowl. The gifted element of this is obviously the pattern. So it'd be quite nice to carry on with that because I've been enjoying working on that one. That one might progress a little bit more because I'm recording this about a week before the end of the month. So I've still got some time to work on this one. So by the time we get to my August making wrap up, that might have progressed a little bit. I'm feeling very conflicted because I've got so many lovely gifted elements and so many lovely projects in this. Do you know what? I think I'm going to cheat somewhat and pick 2 projects. I think I'm going to pick my sun gazer, and I'm going to spend the first couple of weeks of the month working a couple more wedges on the sun gazer to see how I like my yarn combination, or whether I like my yarn combination. And then once I've settled on yes, I'm going to carry on, or no, I need to spin up some more yarn for this, I will put that to one side. And then I think for the rest of the month I'm going to work on my Astra vest, because this hasn't been worked on for ages and it deserves to be worked on, and I really would like to have my first from fleece to sweater project finished. And because it's a vest, there's no sleeves or anything, so I think there's a good chance that even just with a couple of weeks work I might be able to get that one finished. So yeah, I think I've made my decisions. Yay! Love note, a sock to be determined, a mood project to be determined. I guess if I was being sensible, I could pick one of these, not one of these, one of these, wrong project bag, as my mood project, and one of these as my gifted project. That could work. See what I have time for in the month. That seems like quite a nice mix. I'll have my mermaid, my sock, my love note, my sun gazer, my vest, and maybe one other project for mood, depending on how I decide to work that. Okay, we've reached the end. That was a little bit chaotic at the end there, wasn't it? But we got there in the end. So please do let me know in the comments below whether you have making plans for September. I know some of you often play along and pick prompts to match my dice roll prompts. I think there's something here that should be relatively easy to pick out of most people's project pile. So random number generator, that's pretty self-explanatory. Gifted, again, that's pretty self-explanatory. You could interpret that as something you've gifted yourself. You know, if you're not someone who receives a lot of gifts around your crafting, then, you know, perhaps you pick out a yarn from your stash that you bought yourself as a real treat, something like that, I'm thinking. Mood is self-explanatory, pick up whatever you fancy working on. And sock, again, self-explanatory. I'm thinking if you're not a sock knitter, because I know there are some folks out there that aren't into socks, maybe pick a small project instead. I haven't yet mentioned our hat make along in my September making plans, so another project to add to my list, and that could also potentially be my mood project, is I would like to cast on a hand spun hat. So if you're not aware, if you're new to the Yarn and Yarns channel, we have a hat make along going at the moment, running from August till the end of September. And yeah, we're just making hats together, and I have been working on a Musselburgh hat in August, and so I would quite like to cast on another hat for September, and so I might get a hand spun hat on the go for that. Gosh, that's lots of projects to work on, isn't it? Hey, I always have lots of projects on the go, don't I? Lots to choose from. Don't always manage to work on everything that I want to, but I aspire to, and it keeps me busy, keeps me motivated, and keeps me working away on my works in progress. I am going to go. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. James, poor thing, has been sick for the last couple of weeks. He's picked up this really nasty sort of summer cold, and I have managed to avoid the worst of it, but I've got a little bit of a cough and a little bit of a sniffle, and I can feel myself starting to struggle now because I've been waffling on for so long. So I will be back again soon with some more making content here on the channel. So I hope you will join me for the next video. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.